The Air Force is on record as saying, quote, they want to control the weather by 2025, and we are not talking about just seeding the clouds for rain. Weather modification means, quote, any activity performed with the intention of producing artificial changes in the composition, behavior, or dynamics of the atmosphere, unquote. And as of April this year, there are more than 150 different weather modification programs around the world.
With no government oversight.
Since about 2000, the Department of Defense and the Department of Energy have been spraying the entire United States sky with a toxic brew of chemicals and other biologic agents. And comes in. Military and some commercial jets have been fitted with huge barrels of at least 49 different kinds of documented chemical poisons. Among other documented ingredients in this toxic man-made clouds are pathogenic molds, fungi, weaponized viruses, and made in some places like the secret site at Fort Detrick, Maryland, which is supposed to be a cancer site, but there are a number of scholars and professors tracking this that have big questions about this. Barium and nanoalumin particles. What do these do to the human body? Barium is an alkaline earth mineral. It was discovered in 1774. At low doses, it can act as a muscle stimulant. At high doses, it detrimentally affects the heart and the nervous system. Barium is toxic to all mammals, and that means not just humans. Aluminum, which is the most abundant metal in the Earth's crust, is known to diminish kidney function and destroy brain cells and cognitive function. Just think about it. Just between the aluminum and the mercury that we're breathing all the time, we've got already a serious issue about brain function and cognitive function. There is also documented evidence that the aluminum in chemtrails is released as nanoparticles, and that when they reach the Earth environment for wildlife, in lakes and streams, it's causing serious problems with wildlife there. Researchers are also finding that nanoparticles interfere with the growth of plants. Nanotechnology is totally unregulated. Just this past month, a new research report came out showing and documenting for the first time that these nanoparticles actually go through the skin. Well, if you breathe them, whether they go through the skin or whether you're inhaling them, it's still a problem, a serious problem.
Public health problem in Wave County and in several parts of Arizona. We require you have the authority and the means to fulfill your legal and moral obligation to investigate the source of the toxins that citizens are being exposed to at extreme levels, to the degree that laboratory blood tests of different citizens are registering consistently alarming results, including 12,000% above normal maximum levels of barium, a chemical not found normally in a natural environment. About a couple of months ago, Golden Valley resident, Mr. Alan DeChico, he didn't feel good, he's been very sick, and he did a very several type of lab test. This blood test completed also barium, testing for barium and aluminum. The results came back. The maximum level of barium was supposed to be between 4 and 10, and his blood results came back with just 150. I'm saying just is sarcastic. Over 1,000% above was supposed to be the maximum. Other people in the area, they're not really feeling good, especially elder people. And bottom line, they did the same test for barium and aluminum. With about 15 people, exactly, 17 people that did this test, the start of the project, and we have 87% of them came back with the results of barium in their blood. It was between 500% above to 20,000% above the maximum. For example, we have a lady in Golden Valley that her blood test results came back with a level of 250. Remember, the maximum is supposed to be between 4 and 10. Where is the barium from? We have no idea. Or we know that we drink different sources of water. We all test our water. Personally, myself, I drink from a well, and we test our well water. There is no barium. Most of the people that have been found positive with this barium, they come from the drink water from county sources or from city sources, so the water is clean. We live in different environment. We don't share the same roofs, the same household. We also eat different food.
You breathe the same air.
It is not just a fancy word. This is a very scary, poisoning element that on the long distance can destroy your immune system, can create some sort of several problems, miscarriages, and especially in the elders and people with pre-existing condition can be deadly. We demand today, in front of God, in front of us, the rest of the citizen, people that elected you, taxpayer, and also in front of the next generation, we demand that you, elected official, public servant, don't forget also, you have now the duty to investigate. I included for you in these letters. The end game is aluminum dioxide in all the soils, where you've got to go to companies like Monsanto. They're coming out with whole seed lines that will grow in aluminum poisonous soil. But that's only part of it. It's about the seed banks, the seed arcs, all of this. It's about weather weapons, shutting down regions that don't play ball. They're already talking about a Chicago mercantile system that will bet on the weather. Well, it's going to be a rigged casino. They don't set up casinos without putting their finger on it, without controlling it. This is about playing God. This is about world government. And this is about genocide and population reduction.
So if you control how much food there is, or its availability, through things like the weather, or using the weather as a strategic tool militarily, you can, dramatically influence what's going on in a country. And by doing that over and over again, sequentially through a region, it's possible that you can change the political spectrum over an entire region by doing this over and over again. Maybe even do it over a much wider region, create so much instability that you're able to come in and say, oh, we have these wonderful fast-growing crops, genetically modified, and this you'll have something to eat in less than 3 weeks, and I imagine that if you can control the food supply, that you can then consolidate the financial and the political interests of a country.
Could predicting the weather enable a group or specific entity to profit from that knowledge of knowing what type of weather or weather pattern will be? Absolutely. That's what all commodities are driven by. They're driven by predicting the weather, how the weather will be in a certain location, and it directly is correlated to the price of that commodity. Absolutely. There's no doubt.
The geoengineering programs are a direct assault on the most elemental aspects of nature.
What we're doing when we modify the weather is we're changing the world's climate and we're changing the microclimates, and we are doing it.
There are things we can say for certain. There's a mountain of metal raining down on us. We're certainly breathing that metal.
We have documented from the computer modeling some unintended consequences.
If such a contamination is present, shouldn't we investigate? Shouldn't local agencies investigate, which they have patently refused to do?
There's no question that large-scale climate engineering is untested and dangerous. I would disagree quite strongly that it doesn't exist. I think that the capacity to do it in engineering terms most certainly exists, and that's part of the reason we have to think seriously about how we manage that.
We are breathing a mountain of metal, and that can't be denied.
If geoengineering continues, and the weather manipulation continues, and genetic modification continues overtaking, we're going to lose our ability to grow good, nutritious food. We are going to lose our ability to thrive.
I personally consider this ongoing toxic dumping into our atmosphere to be, along with nuclear radiation, the most dangerous threats to our health and to our environment.
We've seen UV scales go off the charts, which are a known consequence of geoengineering, ozone destruction. We've seen rainfall patterns disrupted in ways that meteorologists don't seem to be able to explain or predict.
The challenge that all of these weathermen face, all of them, whether they're aware of it or not, sooner or later they will be aware of it. And I went through a period after the epiphany of, how did I not see this sooner? How? I mean, seriously, I'm supposed to do this for a living. How did I not see this?
We seem to have lost our moral fiber and our ethical compass when we talk about that we all should live within an experiment that somebody else is conducting.
If you knew or could predict the weather at any given time, in any given area, then you control the fate of mankind and what they pay for everything.
Washington is not responsive to the average person. It's responsive to commercial interests who can spend millions on campaigns now without restriction, who literally drive the policy making in Washington, D.C.
I guess I'm under the belief that you can't control the weather.